Hey everyone, I'm John and I'm going to walk you through the Helium installation process today. Helium isn't just a contact form plugin, it's like having a magical gardener tool for your prospects, with automated email campaigns and all of the cultivation features of enterprise level tools. But be warned, before we get started, here is a required checklist to have in place. 1. Have a Google Workspace admin access or Gmail. 2. Make sure you have downloaded the install files from this link here. 3. Be logged into your Gmail account. You want to be the admin of Helium. 4. Make sure you are not logged in your browser with any other Gmails or Google Workspaces accounts than what you need to install and connect Helium to. 5. Make sure you read the read.me file in the plugin install file to ensure your server is configured correctly. Now, if everything is done there, go to your dashboard plugins and then click Add a new plugin. Hit Browse and locate the Helium plugin in your downloads and click Install Now. Since I already have this installed, I will directly go to the Helium plugin on my dashboard and launch the setup wizard. We recommend our users to go through the step-by-step process. However, here is a link to show you how to get it and add it to your plugins. Here, when we begin the installation wizard, a new browser tab will open. For the next several steps, we have to switch the tabs and follow the instructions in the wizard on the setup screen. Be sure note to exit the install screen. If you do, then you will need to start the installation process over. Step 1, click on the Begin Build button, then revert back to the Setup wizard. In Google Console, select the project from the drop-down, and once you select a project, move back to Setup wizard and check the step off. Give your Google Cloud project a name. You can name it anything you want. When you are done, return to the Setup wizard and check the box. Now that we have given the project a name, go and click on the Create button. And move back to the wizard for enabling the APIs. And to do so, click the hamburger menu and click on the library under APIs and Services. Once the library is open, go back to the wizard to move to the next step. Search Google's APIs and turn on each one as you go through the list, moving back and forth from the Install wizard and Google API Search tab. Starting off, search for Google Sheets API in the library and return back to the wizard for the next step. In this step, simply select the search result and follow the next instruction mentioned in the wizard. Now, enable the Google Sheet API and follow the same process for the next few APIs. Repeat the process. Search People API, select the search result. Enable it and then go back to Library. Now search App Script API, select the search result. Enable it and go back to the library. Repeat the process for Google Drive API and go back to the library. Search the Gmail API, select and enable it. Lastly, search Google Calendar API, select Enable it and move on to create the API key step. Now head back to APIs and Services and select Credentials from the menu. On the same screen, select the Create Credentials drop-down and check for instructions in the Setup wizard. Select the API key and move to the next step in the wizard. In the dialog box, click the Edit API key, and that will redirect us to the Edit screen. Give it a name. You can name anything, but we suggest using Go Helium. Under Application Restrictions, select HTTP refers, commonly known as websites. Add an item under website restrictions and check for more instructions in the wizard. Note that you will only be able to use secure socket layer HTTPS. It has to be a secure socket layer. Here you can add your website domain name and also any other domain name where you will be posting your forms on. Helium also has a one-of-a-kind feature. You can export your form as a plugin for WordPress and install it on another website. This comes in handy for affiliate or partner lead gen websites. Note that you need to make sure to add those domains here into the form creation wizard when executing this feature. Domains, it's time to enable the APIs. First, select the Restrict Key option under API restrictions. In the drop-down, we have to select all of the APIs that we had enabled earlier. To begin, search for the Google Sheets API and checkmark it. Repeat the process for People API, App Scripts API, Google Drive API, Gmail API, and the Google Calendar API. Once all 6 APIs are selected, go to the top right-hand corner, select the API key, and hit Save. Next, paste the API key and move to Setup OAuth. If you missed any information, please pause the video and confirm you haven't skipped any steps. In order to set the OAuth key, head back to the Create Credentials dropdown. Next, select the OAuth client ID. Click Configure Consent screen. Now you have to select the user type. If you are using Google Workspace, select Internal. However, if you are using any Gmail account, you should select External. Since I have a Google Workspace account, I will select Internal and click Create. Once you create the application, it will ask for an application name. You may choose any name. We prefer Go Helium 1 for support reasons and tracking. Next, step back to the Setup wizard. Next, choose our support email and return back to the Setup wizard. Choosing an app logo is completely optional. However, it will take much longer to get the app approved, so we can skip that and recommend you to skip it as well. Next, it will ask for the website URL under app domain. Similarly, we can add a privacy policy page, and in the next step, we can add terms of service URL in the relevant field and return back to the Setup wizard's instructions under authorized domain. Add any of your domains which you plan on using Satellite Helium to host your front-side forms and to receive form responses to this form. However, you need to list all your domains here. Checkmark the next step on the Setup wizard and move down. Enter the developer email addresses or support email address. More than one email address can be added. Helium Satellite Export option allows you to export your form as a standalone WordPress plugin that can be added to any WordPress websites. Once done, complete the app registration by clicking Save and Continue. Here are optional steps to setting up the consent screens, scope, and test users. You can click the Save and Continue button and move to the next step. Lastly, you will see a summary of the consent screen. Make sure that all the filled information is correct and nothing is missed. Once you are satisfied, click the Back to Dashboard button. Now that our consent screen has been set up, move to Creating Client ID. For that, we need to click back to Credentials in the Google console. In the Google console, click the Create Credentials drop-down and move back to the Setup wizard. In the drop-down, choose OAuth Client ID and check for further instructions. Next, add the domain under Authorized JavaScript Origins. Be sure to use the same URLs that you have entered in the previous step. Also, try to add the same URLs under Authorized Redirect URLs. Lastly, let's hit the Create button to create the OAuth Client ID. Copy the client ID from the dialog box and move to the next step. That is pasting the ID. Google will ask to authorize the account. Make sure you allow all Google features access. Check mark any boxes and allow all feature to use Helium app. Before we move to enable the Scripts API, please pause the video if you have missed any of the steps. Now, click on Begin Activation, and when the new tab opens, return back to the Setup wizard. Go to the Google console and open the App Script API settings. Go back to the wizard and enable it. Once we mark the step in the wizard, it will take less than 5 minutes to build the files in the database tables. Lastly, deploy the app script. Click on Begin Deployment, and once the new tab opens, move back to the wizard for the next step. On the top right-hand corner, you will notice a Deploy drop-down button. Click on it and move back to the Setup wizard. Click on New Deployment in the Deploy drop-down. In the dialog box, find the gear icon on the top left. Click on that and select the web app from the drop-down and move to the next step. In the Who Has Access, we have to select anyone instead of only myself or company, and move to the next step in the Setup wizard. This just allows you to run the script as an app only on the website pages you chose. However, it does not allow access to edit the code. Lastly, click on Deploy. Now, go back to the Setup wizard to authorize your Google account. and check it off the setup wizard when you're done. Congratulations, you successfully deployed your app script. Copy the web app's URL and paste that in the next step. In the end, set the Google Calendar. Click on Get Started and check mark on both, and we are done.